The wake of a ferryboat froths and foams. The screen returns to black. Captions. In 1983, after years of deteriorating vision, John Hull went completely blind. For the next 3 years, he kept a diary on audio cassette. This film is a dramatisation, using his original recordings. John stands with his son by the ship's rail, the little boy's hand clasped in his.
When did you get blind?
John blurred in an ultrasound clinic, a fetus pictured on the monitor.
It happened just a few days before you were born.
Back on the ship, the boy swims into focus.
What made your eyes go poorly?
Sunspots swirl.
They were sick and the doctors couldn't make them better.
The ship's wake churns. From darkness, a slow drift down under water. And back to black. Notes on blindness. John's fingers find the buttons on a cassette recorder and press record.
11th of June, 1983.
A kaleidoscopic montage of home movies.
After nearly 3 years of blindness, I find that the pictures in the gallery of my mind have dimmed somewhat. So I found with great distress that I could no longer remember easily what my wife looked like or what my daughter Imogen looked like.
Playing with a small boy, she's swallowed by darkness.
I found that memories of photographs were more easily recaptured.
His wife's face blotted by falling snow. John cradling an infant.
In the case of my daughter Imogen, I have a wide range of visceral memories of her.
Sitting up in her pram, smiling in hand-knitted bonnet and cardigan, blowing out 5 candles that flicker on a motionless cake.
Of Thomas, now nearly 3, I have a few very vague impressions based upon the first 6 or 9 months of his life before I lost sight altogether.
In a paddling pool, the little boy bleached out by the sun.
And of Elizabeth, who is now 16 months, I have no visual memories at all and never have had.
A blank screen, John through a rain-spattered lens.
I can remember as a teenager when my left eye went blind, thinking to myself, well, that's the last time I'll be able to see my left shoulder. To lose the shoulder is one thing. To lose the face is another thing.
He walks through rain.
To what extent is loss of the image of the face tied up with loss of the image of the self, and with a consequent feeling of being a ghost or a mere spirit?
His own image barely discernible in the mist.
We have lost something close, something intimate, something very special between us. And I suppose the major loss for me is that, you know, he can't see me.
Waving grass on the blurred dunes.
It's really as simple as that. You know, I can't look into his eyes and be seen. There's no, you know, beholding in that sense of being held in somebody's look. And I think, you know, when you're very close to somebody, that is a huge loss.
John and his son at the rail of the boat.
To be seen is to exist. This is what lies behind the thought which my older daughter has expressed. Oh, Daddy, I wish you could see me.
Her face is out of focus against early evening light. A moment of darkness. A ship's lantern fails to illuminate in the dusk.
Why doesn't God help you? God does help me. In lots of ways. How? Well, he makes me strong and gives me courage.
Waves swell and ebb as night falls.
But he doesn't help you to get your eyes back.
Woodland, crisscrossing branches heavy with snow that's still falling.
The earliest experience of panic which I can remember in connection with blindness took place in the middle of December, on a dark afternoon when snow had been predicted.
It blankets the street.
I left the house, but had only gone about 100 yards along the Bristol Road when I was aware of a growing feeling of doubt and uncertainty.
Waving grasses tremble, John a thin shadow in a whiteout.
I was intensely aware of the fact that I was going through nothing, through an intensely cold nothing, going nowhere, of being entirely alone. I had a dreadful sense of impending doom. I turned around and walked back to the house, and for about an hour fought an asthma attack.
He retreats indoors, sits hunched on a bed, glimpsed through a mirror.
I had a desperate feeling of being enclosed, of having to get out. I must get out, as if I was banging my head, my whole body against the wall of blindness. A desperate need to break through this curtain, this veil which is surrounding me, to come out into the world of light out there.
White particles drift against black. The shadow of a window frame. John's wife holds him, squeezes him. Her lips hover by his ear. A bright light diffracts through smeared glass.
How could this happen to me? Who could ask me to go through this? Who had the right to deprive me of the sight of my children at Christmas time?
In a juddering ambulance at night, John on a stretcher grips the rail, an oxygen mask over his nose and mouth.
The image that often haunted me during the early days of my blindness came back to me with such force. I was in a little coal truck in a mine shaft, being trundled deeper and deeper into the mine.
Lights flicker past the windows.
Were we just out of control? Was there nobody in a position to stop it? Would it just go on and on? I had to get out, I had to jump out, I had to run back. But no, it remorselessly carried me in deeper and deeper and deeper.
Fleetingly, the lights punctuate the darkness, illuminating John's face with increasing rarity. Mist shrouds trees in a tranquil parkland setting. A net curtain flaps by a windowsill. Water fills a bathroom basin from a running tap. John in striped pyjamas in front of the mirror.
I somehow feel that if I were to accept this thing, if I were to enter into acquiescence, then I would die. Because it would be as if my ability to resist, my will to resist, were broken.
He walks outside, sits indoors.
On the other hand, not to accept seems futile, because what one is refusing to acquiesce in is a fact.
The house darkens, addressing the cassette recorder.
And now, what I have to face is the thought that there is no escape. The thought that I shall now just go on with another 20, 30 or even more years of this.
The tape spool turns and stops. Darkness. Rain stipples the frosted glass of John's workshop window. Moss grows in the rotting frame. John runs his hand along the wooden workbench. He comes to stand facing the door with its view of the garden. In his 40s, bearded, wearing glasses, John opens the door and inhales. He pauses on the threshold, listening.
Rain brings out the contours of what's around you, in that it introduces a continuous blanket of differentiated and specialised sound, uninterrupted, which fills the whole of the audible environment. If only there could be something equivalent to rain falling inside.
Water teems down over crockery.
Then the whole of a room would take on shape and dimension.
Splashing in the kitchen sink, John sits at the table soaked. Rain falls around him. Blurry droplets bounce from every surface as he holds his cup of tea.
I should also say that this is an experience of beauty. Instead of being isolated, cut off, preoccupied internally, you are presented with a world. You are related to a world. You are addressed by a world.
Framed again in the doorway in close-up, now in long shot from the end of the garden, our view of John expands.
Why should this experience strike one as being beautiful? Cognition is beautiful. It's beautiful to know.
A close-up of the cassette recorder. The depressed record button springs up. Darkness.